Yeah, I like everything about this guy. I like his vulnerability. I like that he focuses on the innovation, the product, making things better, trying to make the world better. I like that he's got this grand vision. I like that he's not arrogant. I like that it's not this adrenaline fueled, like kind of like rah session. It's not about that.
It's not about, hey, look how great I am.
No.
Now buy my product. It's not all about him. It seems like it's not that arrogant, self-centered, self-absorbed perspective. That's refreshing.
I mean, imagine having more people like a guy like this in different industries, like in the pharmaceutical industry. Mm-hmm. Hey, how about we start figuring out things that like help people and that don't have like 1,000 side effects to get, one benefit? Recording from my studio here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm a born and raised New Yorker, now living in the South. Welcome to Confessions of a Financial Advisor, the antidote to conventional financial independence wisdom. My name is Al. I've been a financial advisor for over 20 years. I've worked with thousands of clients in all areas of the country and from all walks of life. Through the relationships I had with these people, I've discovered the mindsets and behaviors that are most effective in a person's financial life, plus the pitfalls and all the BS to watch out for. The financial independence community today has completely lost its way, and I felt it was time to call out the FI gurus, podcasters, and self-proclaimed pundits. This podcast is not about the numbers. That's what all the other financial podcasts talk about. We will focus on the emotional and psychological components that drive our behavior. I am not looking for new clients, and I'm not interested in running for any kind of office. I'm going to tell you like it is from an insider's perspective and pull back the curtain on the financial industry. Now, let's get into Confessions of a Financial Advisor. Episode 8, Tesla. I'm here with my partner in crime, Diane. Hi, Diane.
Hey, Al. It's great to be here.
Great to have you here. And so this post is about Tesla and their somewhat charismatic but kind of nerdy CEO, Elon Musk. And Tesla is the electric car maker. But outside of just being a car maker, they're more considered a technology company. And I think this is where people go wrong with thinking that they just produce cars. They're more about producing batteries and the technology that the cars use. I thought it would be a cool topic because I've been following Elon Musk for at least 10 years at this point, and definitely following Tesla. And just to give you a background on Elon Musk, very short, he formed a company called Zip2 Corporation back in 1995, first company, sold it to Compaq for over $300 million. He didn't walk away with that, but that's what the company was sold for. He got a piece of that. He parlayed that into a company called X.com, which later became PayPal, which we all know PayPal. And that was in 1999. And then he walked away from the PayPal transaction with $170 million. And I believe he was in his late 20s, maybe early 30s at that point. So walks away $170 million clear.
That's a nice payout.
I mean, I always think he could have just taken half of that and just thrown it into like, all right, this is my retirement account for me and all of my heirs.
Yeah,
and
I'm set for life.
I'll take this other half and, fiddle with it and do some other projects, creative pursuits. Mm-hmm. No, he didn't do that. He's like, I'm going to take this $170 million. I'm going to take half of it. I'm going to put it into this company called SpaceX. And SpaceX basically produces reusable rockets that he launches into outer space. Okay, first company to do it since NASA. Okay. And then he's going to take the other half of that $170 million and he's going to throw it into a new startup automaker called Tesla. And all they're going to make is electric cars. And at the time, like nobody's really buying electric cars. They had
right. Well, this was 20 years ago, or
this
close to 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think it started like 2003. Yeah, it is 17 years ago, exactly. And so, starts doing two things that have very small probabilities of success. But like a little kid, he's just kind of like, this is what I want to do. And this is what I dream about. This is what gets me up early in the morning. It's what I'm excited about.
This is my passion project and I'm going all in. That's a huge amount of commitment though.
All in. If I lose it all. I
can't imagine that. Yeah.
So fast forward to 2008, now the financial crisis hits, right? And both companies are not doing that well at that point. Mm-hmm. And literally he's on the verge of bankruptcy and sleeping on his friend's couch. At one point. So a few years earlier, had $170 million and now he's sleeping on friends' couches, mortgaging his house, like just, down and out, like by the skin of his teeth, like basically pulled through that crisis. And the rest is history. Now Tesla is larger from a market cap than GM, larger than Ford, larger than companies that have been around for over 100 years in the auto manufacturing space. And there's been so many auto manufacturers that have gone out of business over those years. The only two companies, get this statistic, the only two auto manufacturers that have not gone bankrupt at one point are Ford and Tesla. The only two. Every single other auto manufacturer has gone bankrupt. So GM was bailed out in the financial crisis. So yeah, I start the post with like this funny story about like the kids. So like anytime we go anywhere, driving around, and you see it all over. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina.
They're everywhere. Yeah.
There's Teslas everywhere. And we could now pick them out from like, a good quarter mile away. I could just see the T on the fronts. And so it's like punch buggy, my kids could see it better than we can. And like Tesla. And then literally every like 10th car is a Tesla, it seems like. And it's just been this thing that I followed. I'm so inspired. I've never been inspired by any type of executive or entrepreneur.
He's not a typical executive though.
No.
Or he's not a traditional executive, I guess would be a better way to say it.
Not a traditional executive. He's
certainly an entrepreneur in spirit.
Yeah, he considers himself more of like an engineer. Like that's his base. Like that's his understanding. And then like an engineer, then CEO, business person, but first like engineer. So yeah, I've just been a fanboy of this guy, and just like watching him over the years.
It's a cool story. I mean, just from watching his life experience, it's a cool story.
Really cool story. And just his demeanor. We talk a lot about on this podcast how we all have similar life experiences, and that we deal with grief, we deal with struggle, we deal with doubt, we deal with fear. Yeah. And
anxiety.
Anxiety. And
insecurity.
He's definitely not immune to that. Obviously, he's a human being, even though some people think he's an alien. But yeah, he thinks he likes to like play off that too. But yeah, he just, for whatever reason, like it just seems like he seems immune to it. He seems to handle it in a way that I've never seen another person handle it. Because he's literally running one of the largest companies in the world. It's probably, I don't know, top 100 largest companies in the world. And, he's got Wall Street breathing down his neck. He's got stockholders that want answers. He's got the board of directors that want to know what's going on. He's being pulled in many different directions. It's on such a large scale. So I think of myself, I'm like, I'm a sole proprietor and I have my business and I have me to worry about, and my family.
Yeah.
And just the scale, like I don't get the scale and how he can do it, and not only do it, but not succumb to the expectation of, society at large, or of, Wall Street. All they want to know in Wall Street is like, how are you doing this quarter? They don't care about where your company is 10 years down the road.
They're focused on the bottom line, and he's focused on the innovation and the creativity. You and I've talked a lot about it. You can tell when people are truly passionate about something. Like it comes through in nonverbal ways, even when they communicate about things that they're just deeply passionate about. And it seems like he is one of those people, and he's not interested in playing some corporate traditional game or telling people what they want to hear and conforming to external expectations. And that's so unusual. It's unfortunate that it's so unusual in corporate America, but it is.
And he kind of goes against the grain of what we've talked about in the Tony Robbins podcast about that adrenaline fueled positive thinking. He doesn't have all this bluster. He basically just talks about his vision, how he's going to execute it, and just the fun stuff he's trying to do with his cars, the different, the performance of the cars, the quality of the car, the safety of the car, all the things he's trying. Rarely talks about like quarterly, like, well, this quarter we're going to do this amount of revenue and this on the bottom line.
My numbers are right. Well,
yeah, it's just not about. I mean, the guy's worth $20 billion, and just a year ago they had this whole like news special that he was sleeping on the couch in the Tesla factory because he's like, it makes no sense for me to go home because we're in this production nightmare at this point. We're trying to get this stuff done. I need to be here for this. I'm like, what other CEO would do something like that?
That level of commitment.
Such a high level of commitment. And you get the feeling, well, obviously, it's not even you get the feeling, from his history, if he took every amount of money he had, 170 million, and just puts it into these things that are just a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
And now you see him, he's got 20 billion. Like, there's not an ounce of anything in me that thinks that this guy's out for the money.
Yeah.
It just, you just don't see it, and it just separates him from every other corporate CEO out there.
Yeah. And you talk about, it's almost like he's speaking a different language in like watching video clips, comparing like traditional CEOs and corporate people, how they communicate even. It's like they're speaking a different language.
Yeah, the stodgy white guy with, his suit like all done up perfectly, and he's talking
traditional
numbers.
Executive.
And he's very confident and measured and everything that he says.
And he's got spreadsheets and
Yeah, and just very confidently talking. He's talking the corporate Kool-Aid. Like he's just saying like what everybody else says, about profits and revenue and about the bottom line, about this and that. And then Elon Musk gets on. He starts like stammering. He's like, well, let me see. We're going to try to get and he's talking about batteries. He's talking about the technology. And he's talking about how his cars are going to be driving themselves in a few years. And he gets criticized because he makes these kind of outlandish predictions. And then maybe he doesn't do it in the time frame he says, but he eventually does it. Yeah. But he gets held to the standard of, this guy's crazy. He's a charlatan. And
well, you've talked about, I think you said that he and the Tesla have been called, is it a battleground? What was the word?
Battleground stock.
Yeah. That it's just very polarizing. Like you love it or you hate it. Like there's not much middle ground. There's not much lukewarm reaction to someone and he's such an outlier. He's just so different from the rest of the pack that he just stands out.
He's like the epitome of challenging the system, like going against bucking. Quo. Yeah. And you see it like every time I see an interview on CNBC of like the executives of the big car manufacturers get on there and they're like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know the auto business. He doesn't know this. He doesn't know that. They're all against him. I mean, I can't wait just to see the one CEO that's like, you know what? I throw my hands up in the air. This guy's really got it.
The product.
Yeah, he's got it down pat. Yeah. Maybe we should learn from him,
Instead of looking at competition and a threat and going on the attack and cutting someone else down. Yeah, maybe focusing on your own business and learning from innovation and creativity, perhaps.
And it makes it so apparent that they're so fearful of the way this industry is going. Because essentially the industry is getting away from, they call it ICE vehicles, internal combustion engine, and they're going towards electric vehicles, which, and you can see all the trends, how they're working. Like Tesla's numbers go up and all the internal combustion engines are going down. And not only that, countries are banning the actual production of internal combustion engines going forward, some as soon as next year. So which means in their country, you cannot produce an internal combustion engine going forward. Yeah. I think one of them is France, but there's a few. I haven't researched it, but yeah, this guy, he's vulnerable. Like when he talks, he's vulnerable and he's stammering and he's not that articulate. He seems like a real
person. He doesn't seem like a suit. He seems like an actual human being.
Yeah, he's just like a visionary nerd, He knows what he's doing and he's got this like bold vision and he's just kind of sticking to it. And he's like, I don't want to hear all,
I don't want to play your Wall Street mind games.
Yeah, your Wall Street corporate stuff. Yeah, you guys worry about that. Let me just focus on making something amazing here. That's what I love about it. Like, I love the whole idea that he stands out so far from the pack because he doesn't get on a CNBC. He doesn't get on any type of news channel. You'll never see him interviewed on that kind of platform. He'll always be interviewed maybe like on a podcast for somebody that's technology oriented or like a small kind of niche kind of thing that's more talking about the technology. Mm-hmm. But he'll never get on as like this business guy and talking about the numbers of the company. So he just has a whole different demeanor than everyone else out there that I've seen.
Interesting that he doesn't seem to be one to jump on media exposure.
Well, we didn't talk about Twitter, so I think he's got like 30 million Twitter followers, and
that's social media, but like
social media, yeah, he doesn't do the traditional thing, yeah. So he's very big on social media, and they just came out with this, crazy cyber truck, and so that's their take on the pickup truck, and it looks like a space vehicle.
Okay,
and
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's been like the latest news with him, at least with Tesla. Let's like put some caveats in here. Number one, I do not recommend anybody out there buying Tesla stock. This is not a recommendation on the stock. It's just a talk about the car and Elon Musk.
It's just for entertainment purposes only, as
please.
Our conversations.
Yes.
And it's just a fun topic because it's one of those things like you drive around town, like something you don't even notice it until you start looking for it, how common they are.
Yeah. And I have this weird kind of like compulsion, literally like I'm in the parking lot at the supermarket and I see one, I'm running over to it. I'm like my hands on the glass and I'm looking in. I'm like, oh, look at that. And there's no buttons. And there's this giant like flat screen right in the middle and everything's controlled by the flat screen, like a little kid. So I did this a couple of weeks ago and the owner of the Tesla came out and I just, I picked my head up from the window. I'm like, hey, like, what do you think of the car? He's like, oh, it's the best car I've ever driven. He's like, if I wasn't going to get my wife right now, I'd let you drive it because I want you to like, really experience what it feels like to drive one of these things.
Wow.
He's like, my wife's got a Mercedes. So like, we're getting rid of the Mercedes. We're getting her a Tesla too. I'm like, oh my. And I had 4 other experiences where people just told me that I love the car and I wouldn't want to drive anything else. But this guy was like off the rails, like
wow,
was all about it. And so when you see that, like somebody that's so passionate about their car, like I drive my car, I like it. I'm not going to like, not screaming from the rooftops. I love Jeeps, right. Like it's a Jeep. It's great. And it's fun. Okay. It's okay.
Gets me where I need to go. I actually do enjoy driving my car, but I wouldn't rave about it to people. It's just, I personally like driving it. So.
Would you let like somebody in a parking lot let them drive your car?
I would not.
You got to try that car. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But to speak to my car's age, even my car's a 6-speed manual, and they're not making those anymore either. Like those are being phased out. So somebody called it. This is my favorite description of my car ever. Somebody goes, I really appreciate your millennial anti-theft device. Because millennials can't drive manual. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
That's like your version of the club.
Yeah.
The club. Wow, 6-speed?
Mm-hmm. 6-speed. It's a V6. And that car moves.
What kind of car is it?
An Accord.
An Accord, a 6-speed Accord. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it looks all generic from the outside, and then you like get into drive it, and it's like, oh, this is a badass car. Yeah.
Huh. Never knew they had a 6-speed. Okay. Yep. Interesting. Mm-hmm. I love manuals. That was my first car too.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't my first, but it was my second, and so I just talk about total commitment. I bought the car knowing it was a 5-speed. It was a Jetta, and had never driven manual before. I had a Camry, was my first car, and I just gave myself no other option. So I bought the car and then it arrives. I was still living with my parents in college at the time. And I'm like, well, if you want to get anywhere, you're going to figure out how to drive this thing. So
yeah,
that's how I learned. Just
there you go.
Cut off all other options.
Burn the bridges.
Figure it out because I'm not staying home. So
the reason I wanted to talk about Tesla, again, I never drove the car. I've never been in one. I've never even been in a Tesla before. I've never sat in one. Well, no, I take that back. I saw one at like a Nordstrom. They had like one of those cars in the store. Yeah, so I think I actually sat in one. But just the buzz on it, and then when I see this guy speak, and I see nobody else acting like this guy, I don't see anybody else that acts like him. And it just doesn't make any sense.
Maybe he's just being himself.
Shocking. I mean,
isn't that a novel concept in the business world? Like just being who you actually are. Huh.
It's like but it's so rare that it sticks out so much.
Totally.
That's why, like we were saying, battleground stock, it's so polarizing because it's so opposite of what.
So different.
Yeah, just through and through. The guy showed up on the Joe Rogan podcasts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and the big deal there, they're in California. Marijuana is legal, and he smokes a joint with Joe Rogan. And, everybody's up in arms. How could a CEO of a company smoke weed? And, this is the thing. This guy does not care. Like, fine. The stock actually did plummet the next day after he was on live stream smoking weed. But just, everything about it. Where's the company going to go? I don't know. I mean, there's no real long-term speculation here. I mean, if I had to bet, I would think that it's going to do extremely well. There's no way of really knowing. I can see where it is now. I can see the trajectory. I see where it's come from. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? Who knows, if some president jumps in and says, we're banning electric cars. I don't know. I mean,
yeah. And there's no way to predict accurately anyway. You could speculate all day long, but
you can.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, and who knows what new companies, vehicle manufacturers may come out that we don't know about yet. Like he's kind of blazed a trail and kind of disrupted the more traditional, what we've been used to when it comes to the auto industry.
What I like about him too is the risk factor. So we talk about fear a lot, and we talk about, overcoming fear, and there's levels to this, right? So, I was telling you before we started talking, I'm a sole proprietor, and, I'm running my business here, and this guy is running a multi-billion-dollar corporation, multiple multi-billion-dollar corporations.
Yeah, with lots of employees.
30 million people on Twitter, huge following, pulled in a million different directions. And he seems to, obviously, he also claims that, at times very stressed out, not sleeping. He's a human being.
Yeah.
Although, again, he claims to be an alien. But yeah, he is a human being, and he's stressed, but for whatever reason, he rises to that occasion. It's almost like the passion he has for this overrides all of that outside, because there's got to be so many pressures on this guy. So more than I could possibly ever fathom. Wall Street, stockholders, board of directors, just the public, the media, everybody's after this guy. And he just kind of somehow just mumbles through it and, just keeps doing what he's doing and keeps producing amazing products that everybody raves about. And we haven't even talked about like the whole environmental piece of this.
Right. Well, he just seems to have an incredibly high tolerance for risk. Like the thought of dumping all of my money into a new company, that is terrifying. I can't imagine taking a leap like that. And he did it with two companies. And
we just finished that post called Nothing to Lose.
Yeah.
And so it goes like he has a mentality of nothing to lose. Like 100, like the money didn't mean anything. I mean, I'm sure it meant something. It wasn't like there was zero fear. I'm sure he had plenty of fear.
Driving, motivating factor.
Obviously not. I mean, obviously not, right? If it was, then he wouldn't be throwing it in all of it. I mean, why not take half of it?
Yeah.
With half of it, you're still going to be fine.
Be more reasonable. Yeah.
No, that's off the chart for him. There's no reasonability. It's just, I'm going to do what I want to do. And so when people start to say, they're like, well, he's worth $20 billion and, we can't really trust this guy. He's a rich guy. First of all the money's tied up in Tesla stock. It's the only holding he has. I mean, he owns like real estate and stuff, but he only like 99% of his net worth is rolled up into Tesla stock. I mean, how much more commitment can you have to your company when your whole net worth's rolled into it? And the fear aspect of it, it seems like the whole rest of the industry is fueled on fear.
Yeah,
but
totally.
that he's now, innovating, he's bucking the trend, and now it's taking hold mainstream. And all of the other companies that have been around for 100 years that have done the same thing over and over. They produce the same cars, the same styles. They've just rested on their laurels. this guy's coming out of the woodwork, and they're all just kind of holding on tight and just going to try to squeeze every dollar out of an industry that's it's going away eventually. It's not a question of if, it's when.
And change is the only constant. And so we talked a little bit about, Elon Musk and Tesla being kind of in direct opposition to the traditional consumerist, disposable, to speak to the environmental aspect of it. We live in a consumerist, disposable culture. Like, just throw it away, like, with no concern for impact on the environment. And
no concern.
This company is innovating, and you mentioned, like, you're very aware of, like, when you go put gas in your car, like, you're putting this fuel into the car to burn it and put it out into the environment.
And it stinks.
That
and
sounds like a good plan.
It's poison. Like 20 gallons of this stuff I'm just pumping in every week into my car.
Right.
I never thought about it before, but I guess the more I've been seeing other electric cars around and how they're just like plugging their vehicle in, they don't have to burn this stuff.
Isn't it interesting, the illumination of that increasing awareness brings, like things you never would have considered? From following this one company, the story of this guy, it's illuminated awareness in different areas of your life.
Yeah.
It just shifted perspective to kind of maybe consider things like that we just always accepted as traditional or the way things are. And then something new shows up and can open a different level of awareness, which is fascinating.
Yeah. Especially when it comes late. So you never really thought before, there were electric cars before Tesla, but they never really took hold. These auto manufacturers would sell very minute amounts of electric cars. And then he was kind of the first, to really take that and launch it mainstream, to the population. But yeah, now you see like the charging stations, you see all that.
They're all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. And now he's trying to create a battery that's going to go 1,000,000 miles, so imagine that, 1,000,000-mile battery where, like you said, the whole reusable, most cars go 150,000, maybe. If you really like get a good one, 200,000 miles.
Yeah.
And he's trying to build cars that'll go 1,000,000 miles. And then to boot, and this is the biggest thing for me, all that was well and good. But when we talk about self-driving, where you literally do not have to drive the car, they're not there yet. So they have this system called self-driving where it helps you, it'll actually veer onto the highway. It's better than what most vehicles have. It's definitely safer than any other car. I think it's like 8 times safer at this point. But it's eventually, we don't know when, he promises things ahead of when they usually happen. But I mean, you got to think in 5 years, definitely within 10 years, there's going to be a car that they're going to make that literally you have to do nothing. And it's probably 100 times more safe than a human driving it.
Well, we were talking earlier about how stupid people are driving around. Like, they're not paying attention. They're distracted. And it's alarming.
Yeah, a 2,000-pound metal death box that you're driving down the road and you're looking at it while texting and eating something and yelling at your kid. I'm like, put 2 hands on the wheel and look straight ahead and don't do anything.
Focus on what you're doing. Yeah.
Please, we all beg of you, just focus. So just that alone, that they're predicting like down the road. So there's 40, I think it's like 30 to 40,000 deaths per year by car accidents. 30 to 40,000. That's like a stadium full of people.
Yeah.
Every year from, car accidents. Terrible. Like, wrecking people's lives and and their kids and their families, and just that alone. And he made a comment. He talked about back in the 50s when they were coming out with seatbelts. Before the 50s, there wasn't even seatbelts. You just drive a car and fly through the windshield. Sorry. Then they came out with seatbelts, and it was known that they were going to help. You're obviously not going to save everybody, but it's going to be a lot safer.
You're going to increase
But the car companies were against it. And so it took like 15 years for that to even take hold, for the regulators to have it mandatory that all cars had seatbelts. So that's 15 years of people dying because they didn't want to
they're resisting innovation that would impact safety. How funny.
And it's funny. It's kind of, and Elon Musk, basically talked about this, and he's kind of out ahead of it. He kind of realizes this is the trajectory of how it's going to go. He's like, we're going to get this technology. It's going to work really well, but then you got to get it through regulations.
Yeah.
So then everybody's got to be on board, and it changes so many things, because now it doesn't just change that, and it changes the insurance industry.
Yeah.
Because how are you going to insure a car when you have people driving it and you got people not driving it? And,
Well, it's the ripple effect of innovation. And there's no way to predict that. I mean, there's no way.
The growing pains, like major growing pains of innovation, especially on this big of a scale. It's the automobile industry. Like, everybody has a car.
Use every day. I mean, some people don't. In major, like New York, it's not uncommon to not have a car in Manhattan. But in most places, like Charlotte is not a walk-friendly city. I mean, it's a driving city.
Definitely. And most people have a personal car too. It's not even like one car to the family. It's like each adult has a car.
Exactly.
Like, wow, everybody has a car and everybody's burning fuel.
Right.
So yeah, I like everything about this guy. I mean, it's just my thing. I like his vulnerability. I like that he focuses on the innovation, the product, making things better, trying to make the world better. I like that he's got this grand vision. I like that he's not arrogant. I like that it's not this adrenaline fueled, like kind of like rah session. It's not about that.
It's not about, hey, look how great I am.
No.
About my product. It's not all about him. It seems like it's not that arrogant, self-centered, self-absorbed perspective. That's refreshing.
I mean, imagine having more people like a guy like this in different industries, like in the pharmaceutical industry. Hey, how about we start figuring out things that like help people and that don't have like 1,000 side effects to get, one benefit?
That's a whole other conversation.
I know. Or I mean, we need guys like, who's doing big things like him? I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that I'm not aware of. He's probably the most visible.
That aren't getting the level of publicity or social media exposure that someone like him is, but he's definitely a very public figure. But I'm sure that I know that there are other innovators in, even more behind the scenes professions, that even ghostwriting, like that was enlightening. Like, this is people are doing this every day. Like, and it's such it's not a solitary thing, because conversation is a huge part of it. But like, for me as a ghostwriter to realize, oh, I'm not the only one doing this every day. There's other writers out there across the world that get up and do this.
Yeah.
So you don't see them on the news. And I had no concept or awareness that this profession existed, because it's not getting publicity. But yeah, there's behind the scenes innovation and creativity happening all the time in a variety of businesses.
Yeah. I think it's just like his scale makes him more mainstream and more
very visible. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I'm hoping someday. I'm too cheap to get a Tesla at this point. So, but I'm thinking,
fiscally
maybe
conservative.
That's exactly. That's what I meant to say.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe 5 years down the road, once they get that auto driving, self-driving.
Once they work out the kinks and some of the latest innovations.
And I just think of my daughter. So my daughter's 12. And so it means 3 to 4 years, she's going to get like a learner's permit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm terrified. I mean, she's so distracted. Like, she's literally on her phone all the time. Like, all kids are. And I'm like, you're going to put her behind the wheel of the car?
Right.
I mean, I think every parent deals with this, but I'm projecting 4 years ahead. And I'm like, that's horrifying to me.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to drive around them. Like, no, please.
Like, Elon, please get this self-driving perfected before my daughter gets behind the wheel. I don't ever want her to drive a car. Maybe like on like some padded track or something, like
bumper cars.
Yeah,
I'm sure she'd be thrilled.
Yeah. She's not going to like that I'm saying this, but yeah. Well, that's our take on Tesla and Elon Musk.
This was just a very fun topic. It was fun to write about it too.
It was. And after reading his autobiography, it was just like illuminating as far as like seeing where he came from South Africa, then became a citizen of the US, and just the whole thing. It's just so, the people talk about like hard work. I'm like, yeah, hard work it's such a hard term to like really define. Hard work. What does that even mean? This guy, of course, spent many hours working on things that he was very passionate about. But I don't think he really had a choice. Like, I think everything in him drove him to do this. It wasn't like this military type discipline. It was more of like just this passion to do things that he wanted to do and to see his, visions come to life.
Yeah.
And it's so inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you everybody for listening. Come follow us at faconfessions.com and please subscribe, like, leave a review, share. Right. Next week, we have a heavier topic.
But also a common one.
Very common one. Many of you have been through it, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately. It's called divorce. So we're going to be talking about divorce next week and maybe kind of tie that into finance a little bit, but we're going to stick on the emotional and the psychological aspects of divorce. And I myself, 9 to 10 years removed, and Diane, you just mentioned
3. No,
3
2.5,
years.
almost 3. Yeah.
So you're going to get a couple of different perspectives, just me being a little further away from it. Mm-hmm. But I think we share a lot of common things just from what we've talked about. I think everybody deals with a lot of the same issues when it comes to divorce.
It is a very unique fire to walk through and beyond. And yeah, it's that club that I don't think any of us expected to join, but yeah, here we are.
And when I knew of people that were divorced before I was divorced, mm-hmm. I never knew what it meant. I knew what it meant on paper. I knew that it meant you broke up. Right. That's, you're no longer married. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
No clue how deep it goes, and how...
There's a difference between knowledge and understanding. So you can have knowledge about divorce, you're not married anymore. But the understanding of divorce doesn't come unless you experience it personally.
Definitely. I mean, and it's the most apparent with divorce because it's so gut-wrenching for everybody involved. No matter how, even if it was good for you, we'll get into this next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a lot to say about this.
A lot to say. Well, thanks, Diane. It was fun. And
thanks,
we'll see everybody next week.
See you next week.
Bye.